Welcome back to The Pulse. Now, the police is seeking a bench warrant for the arrest of former sports minister under the Eswa Mahama administration, Mustafa Ahmed, after failing to respond to police invitation for allegedly terrorizing and threatening the life of a resident of East Airport over a land dispute case. Now, confirming the story to JoyNews, District Commander for Airport Police, Superintendent Leonard Abakan, says the former MP for Ayawaso East also reportedly used land guards to pull down the fence wall to the house of one Eugene Fessi here in Accra. Eugene Fessi narrates his side of the story.
I started fencing the place and then he was using land guards to stop me, telling me that after paying him. I paid him because I wanted to move in here immediately. So I paid him just so that we can stop the argument going on between the two of us. Now, after I paid him, I want to ward the place. He said he won't allow me to ward the full land and that I should ward only half of the land. I said, how? And ever since I tried to make a move on that land, he fights me back. Anytime. So in fact,
does he give you reason for fighting you back? Is it that you've not paid the money?
He's telling me that place is a road. I have gone to check from Lakeman and all the other places. Even the master plan, I have a copy of the master plan here. There's no road here. The initial arrangement is I want to add this land to his land because his land, his building is in a way.
So when did he break down this fence, or which is currently being investigated?
I was in the office on Friday around 5 p.m. and I had a call. I had 4 calls that Mustafa is here with a bulldozer dropping down my walls. So immediately I called the police, I called the other people, and I also started rushing down here.
So now what exactly do you want to be done to this former minister?
I want to get this minister arrested. I want to be the first person to arrest this minister. The reason is that he has used politics, he has infringed on people's rights just to gain land. And this is the time I think I should not give him the chance because he has stood on my happiness for too long.
Meanwhile, the police says attempt to reach the former sports minister has been unsuccessful. He shares with JoyNews how they intend to handle the case.
All right, a case like that has been reported to us. We sent our investigators to the scene of crime, and actually it was confirmed that some damage has been caused to his property. We've made efforts to invite the suspect, alleged suspect, for him to answer or give us his part of the story. But till now, we've been to his house twice. We've not been able to get him. We've sent him messages and he has still not reported. So we are still investigating, and then we'll do our best to get him to also answer or give us his part of the story. Then investigation fully commences.
Who is the suspect we are investigating?
He's the former MP for Ayawaso, so Mustafa Ahmed.
Okay. So what exactly was reported to the police?
The complainant reported that the suspect, has come to pull down his fence wall.
I want some clarity on this whole issue. It appears to be a land litigation. Is that the case?
You know, we police don't deal with land litigation. What we deal in is criminal. And the criminal aspect of the whole thing is that a damage has been caused to somebody's property. After that, you've gone there with macho men to threaten him. Well, that is the allegation the complainant is making. So we need him to answer to those allegations.
Now that you have been to his house, you've written letters to him, you've sent him messages asking him to come and respond to these accusations that have been leveled against him. He's not responding. What is the police going to do about it?
We are going to go to the next step. And then we'll know the next step, which I'm not ready to disclose now because investigation is premature. So if I release my next step, it might be an arm for the suspect. So the next step will be kept by us, but we'll definitely ensure that we get it.
Away from the police and to some investigations, throughout this week, JoyNews is putting the spotlight on how the nation loses hundreds of millions of cedis through questionable sanitation contracts with assemblies. In the first of that series, JoyNews investigative journalist Manasi Zuria uncovers malfeasance in the waste management contracts signed by the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and assemblies across Ghana. He traveled to all 10 regions of Ghana over a 9-month period investigating the matter. His investigation is titled Robbing the Assemblies. Manasi Zuria joins us in the studio for more on the story and the rest of the series. Now, first of all, Manasi, you're welcome on The Pulse.
Thank you, Aisha.
And what prompted this kind of investigation, Manasi?
Well, for some time now, for some years now, anytime stories are done from the assemblies, you hear a lot about common fund deductions at source. The assemblies always complain that a lot of their monies are taken at source, deducted from Accra for services that are supposed to be rendered there. And they always make the argument that if those monies were given to them, they could perhaps procure their services or even hire the right people they could manage to be able to offer these services. So I decided to look deep into this to know what the money is used for and go down to the assemblies to find out whether those services for which the monies are paid in Accra are actually delivered. And if they are delivered, are the assemblies satisfied with them? So this is what prompted the investigation, and it appear that there's more than the complaints, because there are some contracts that the assemblies are supposed to, or projects they're supposed to even be enjoying, which they do not know, because the contracts are signed here. They don't have copies of the contracts. They don't even know what is in them, in the contracts for them.
Okay, so let's look at the scope of this investigation. Yeah. I mean, what are the borders of this investigation?
Well, it is basically about the assemblies. So I'm looking at all the 216 assemblies, contracts that affect them. And there are about 4 or 5 contracts that are everywhere. If you go to every assembly, they have those contracts. Some are signed with the assembly, some are also signed at the local government ministry, and even the Ministry of Health, and the services are supposed to be delivered there. So I'm looking at all, but I was able to go to the 10 regions and visited 53 metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies. I spoke to officials of the assemblies, some presiding members, some citizens in the assemblies that are supposed to be, or who are supposed to be enjoying these services for which the assemblies funds are deducted. And there are some of them too that have to do with the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, because the assembly concept, or the decentralization concept, is under that ministry. So it is basically about assemblies and then the ministry that oversees them. But there have also been instances that the office of the president has been mentioned or is involved in some of these contracts.
Well, now you started with the waste bin contract, yes, and some price inflation. Can you tell us how the inflation occurred?
The waste bin contract is a $74 million contract, and 60 million of that money is supposed to be used to procure 1 million liter bins, and then the 14 million and 40,000 US dollars is also to be used to procure bin liners. You know, there are these rubbers that are used to cover the refuse bins. What I discovered was that this contract charged 60 Ghana cedis per waste bin. And I decided to do my own checks, so I visited one of the companies that won the bid. And let me also say, this contract was awarded through an initiative from the Office of the President. A letter dated September 15, 2016, and signed by then Chief of Staff, Julius Deborah, instructed the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development to take steps to procure these waste bins. So when the letter got there, they decided to do single source procurement, and 5 companies were selected. And I might say our checks have also revealed that these 5 companies are all subsidiaries of the Jospon Group, owned by Joseph Siawe Japan.
Interesting.
Yes. And then about the pricing, we got some pro forma invoices from some of these suppliers. I mean the Jospon Group, specifically the Universal Plastics and Recycling Limited, which is also part of this contract. And they are quoting 150 Ghana cedis per waste bin. That contract involves transportation, so we looked at a contract that was awarded by the ministry, which also involved transportation. And that contract, they charged 15 Ghana cedis per litre bin for transporting the litre bins to the regional capitals. So we decided to make this one 20 Ghana cedis. So if you add the 20 Ghana cedis for transportation to the 150 Ghana cedis we got from the Jospon Group, then the cost per litre bin should be around 170 Ghana cedis. But they are charging $60 US, which is around 258 cedis.
That's
so
about
a difference of 88 cedis in excess per container. And since they are dealing with 1 million containers, then we are talking about 88 million Ghana cedis.
So you used the dollar at the time, the contract, to make that conversion?
Yes, because even if the dollar increases, which is almost always the case, they will be paid higher. And if we decided to use some quotations from other sources, that could even be higher than the 88 million we're talking about. And then with the bin liners, they are charging 15.8 Ghana cedis per pack. But the contract is charging $15.6 US, which is about, if you put all together, they are procuring 900,000 bin liners. That one too is about 46 million Ghana cedis difference. So if you add that one to the contract for the waste bins, then we are talking about over 130 million Ghana cedis. Yes, which is higher than the estimated cost if you do all these calculations. So this is how we got the cost inflation.
Well, and in your investigation, you also raised questions about procurement. Tell us more about this.
Well, for the procurement, what we know is that if you're using single source procurement, there are conditions under the law. And one of them is that the one procuring the goods or supplying the goods has some right, because no any other person is a patented product. So if they are the only people who have those goods or companies which have those goods, then you may have to rely on them. If there's also an emergency situation that the procurement process may take a long time, you can resort to single source procurement. In this case, the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development at the time, Collins Dawda, wrote to the Public Procurement Authority using the agency as an excuse that it was in a rainy season and then there could be cholera outbreak if people did not get the waste bins to dispose of waste properly. And this letter was signed in October, and we know in October we actually get into the dry season. The other issue which also raises question is, why would all the 5 companies be from one group or belong to one owner when there are other leading waste bin producers in this country which the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development has used over the years? So these are questions we are asking in terms of the procurement, and we spoke to the president of the Ghana Institute of Procurement and Supply, Colin Sapon, and he said it is even strange that in a group of companies you find a number of companies that are supplying the same product. He said if you have a group of companies, then you suppose that each of them has a distinct role. But it is curious to have 5 different companies, all of the same owner, providing the same services.
So what should we expect in the next revelations to come out?
There is something more to this contract. I mean, even the waste bin. We are asking whether it is needed. At the time they were procuring the waste bins, and even now, does the ministry have need for that? And going across the country, we found very interesting evidence, which we'll bring hopefully tomorrow. There are also certain aspects of this investigation that are also very important and interesting. We are looking at the sanitation improvement package contract by all Zoom is implemented by Zoomline in all the MMDAs. We are talking about fumigation contracts and a number of interesting revelations as a result of what we found across the country. So in the following weeks, I think our audience would have a lot of information from Joy News in respect of assemblies across the country.
Many thanks to you, Manasi Zuria. You certainly have no reason to miss out on this series. It's coming to, and you heard it from Manasi himself. He's been investigating the local government and the assemblies for 9 months, and he says that the question he asked is whether we really need those contracts. And he's talking about price inflation of waste bins. Interesting revelations, and this comes at a time when the Minister for Water and Sanitation admits that government owes waste collectors some huge amounts of money, and of course government also planning to institute the sanitation authority and all of that. We'll be watching and updating you on how events unfold, but you certainly don't have to miss this one from Manasi Zuria. Now